The pessimistic has right, optimistic makes money.
Why is it that the ETFs are buying up so much Bitcoin every single day, more than retail could ever do?
Do you think that the BlackRock just want silent? They want to keep accumulating in a quiet mode?
So how do you introduce a CBDC that would be accepted by the people, right? And so first what you need to do is create fear.
Bitcoin is not money. Bitcoin is power. It has nothing to do with money. I mean, you don't have this kind of thoughts like, investing in alts, in some infrastructure which is like real utility, solving real problems.
If you want to build true community, you need to make a bunch of poor people rich. Just like Ethereum did, just like XRP did, just like Solana did, make poor people rich. Right now, meme coins are dominating that narrative, but mostly because founders have been not appreciating and offering retail users a good entry point. And that's what I'm proposing to change.
How much do you make with the YouTube channel? For example, guys like Alex Hormozi, I think all his social media accounts right now are run by AI. The pessimistic has right, optimistic makes money. In front of me is one guy who have seen everything in our industry. His name is Kyle Chasse. Brother, I appreciate so much your presence to ICN.talks, and I'm super grateful for your presence here.
Thanks for having me. I'm grateful to be here too. Really
yes,
nice,
indeed.
place.
Today we film in the different studio than our usual studio, but is still part of the ICN talks. How's it been lately for you? I mean, you have a fresh look. You look absolutely amazing, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been focusing on my health a lot recently. The past couple months, for sure at least. Really making sure that I put a priority on sleep, and diet, nutrition, and I've been doing some, some more cutting edge in medical interventions as well. Things like stem cells or exosomes, gene therapy, stuff like that too. So
I really want to discover more stuff about these things, and but let's start a little bit with our job, with our industry. How do you see it lately? It looks like our boy Bitcoin, it wants to run away from all the alts, all other crowds, right? But it's not happening. Like we are keep waiting for that big run, and we are fighting with this level of 70-ish, right?
I think you're right. The level is interesting, and I think that like when you go into who's accumulating the lion's share of Bitcoin right now, it's BlackRock. BlackRock also has like the largest shares in some of the biggest like military industrial complex things. And so you just have to wonder, why is it that the ETFs are buying up so much Bitcoin every single day, more than retail could ever do? We have all-time low Bitcoin on exchanges, yet the price seems to just be staying still. Like, what's going on? And, markets hate uncertainty. And right now we have very uncertain markets. We've got the presidential election that's coming up soon. Soon that will be over and we'll have more certainty there. And then probably from that outcome, we may see some resolution in the two major wars that are happening in the world right now, right? Middle East and Ukraine. I do think it's interesting that these wars seem to be escalating at the moment instead of de-escalating. And if I were to put my tinfoil hat on right now, I would say that maybe there's a reason. And people are going to say this is crazy, right? Oh, like the governments would really create an extended war just so that they can get Bitcoin at accumulate it rapidly at a cheap price. It's not that crazy when you think about the way the power structures have been operating for the past several centuries in the world. He who controls the money supply controls the power, and fiat currencies, their net days are numbered. They're coming to an end. Governments for a long time have known that the modern monetary policy is broken and that there must be a replacement for fiat currency. And right now, the only viable option is Bitcoin. BRICS are cooking something as well.
Do you think that the BlackRock just want silent? They want to keep accumulating in a quiet mode?
Yeah.
Guys, be sure that nothing happens like big moves. Let's stay there at these levels. We are comfortable with 60, 70, 58, 52, whatever. But we don't want anything like big moves?
Eventually, it's going to have to move, because right now what's happening is the uncertainty is creating fear and uncertainty in retail or small hedge funds, small family offices, and they're selling their Bitcoin and risk assets, right? And then BlackRock and other ETFs and institutions are buying them, and they probably love this right now. That can't happen forever because there's such a finite supply of it. But I do think that they're enjoying the cheap Bitcoin right now, is the way I see it. And back to your point before about the crypto market.
Yeah, I mean, this part, do you see it? Do you really think is the truth has something to do with Bitcoin in all these global implications? Like, do you think Bitcoin is that much big, or is just our imagination
echo
that
chamber?
we go to all these scenarios because we are such believers, and then we extend this imagination in different scenarios that we like to believe, okay, it's that much big. Do you see Bitcoin as these major complications when it comes to wars and stuff like that?
So I think that the wars have another agenda. It's not Bitcoin focused. I think the suppression of Bitcoin price is just a nice bonus for those accumulating. The war that's more in military industrial complex. Like the United States, which makes most of the war weapons, is just profiting on funding, like donating weapons and tanks and jets and things like that into these war zones, right?
Essentially tech.
And they're just making tons of money from it. Just cha-ching, every time a missile explodes, just like they make like $500,000 or whatever the number is. But back to your question, how big is Bitcoin really? And no one knows who Satoshi is, right? HBO tried to come out and say who it was. It's dumb. Like they have no grounds to stand on there. And who Satoshi really is it's, in my opinion, it falls in one of two camps. One is the benevolent superhero that we all hope he is, and the other one is the camp that has controlled the US dollar for the past 70 or 80 years, And I think that theory, at least from a logical perspective, makes more sense than anyone has proposed, an atom back or this for Hal Finney or whatever for Bitcoin, just because there's a lack of evidence there, right? And there's lack of evidence for what I'm suggesting as well, but the theory makes a lot of sense, right? I think that most people would agree that if you were controlling the US dollar, so if you're the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Morgans, all these families who came together to create the Federal Reserve back in the day, and that's a privately owned institution, by the way. And so if you are controlling the dollar, which controls the powers of the world, then you should be, and you would be, on offense and defense the whole time. You're looking on how do we protect this power hold, defend it, make sure that no one else comes and uproots it, and then how do we play offense and make sure that it always remains powerful and dominated in the world. So
a good question is, I mean, like, we are going right, and then we say, if they have nothing to do with the Bitcoin creation, okay, it should be someone that it has a higher power to create something like this without these big boys implications, right? Because they just suddenly find out that there is a code. And by the way, my thesis, okay, this is two different things. The code itself to run a network independent, blah blah blah, all this narrative of the Bitcoin, right? But then going with this code at the global economical implication, that's a totally different power. That's a totally different scenario. Like, okay, one smart guy can write the code, and okay, let's say 4 guys, but then okay, this is just a code. What is working is perfect, but take this code and now attack banks, attack dollar. That's a different power, and you are telling me that there is someone who created this without all these big boys knowing what's going on, like there being the dollar. Like, this is not possible. This is literally not possible.
It's exactly what I'm saying, right? So either,
so is them. Short version.
Yeah, I mean, it's 50% likely that it's them that either created it from the inception, or were able to essentially, control take over the control. There's a small group of Bitcoin core developers, and so being able to influence them. We do know, I forget the name of Adam Back and what's the company called? I forget. The Bitcoin core developers mostly, I forget. But anyway, they have investment from, I think, BlackRock and others, and they had the block size wars, right? Big blocks versus small blocks. I think that there should have been big blocks or dynamic blocks so that Bitcoin could have scaled and we wouldn't have this really expensive, really slow network. But a lot of people, including Blockstream is called the company, right? So Blockstream, if you look at who owns the Blockstream, right? It points to a story that's more dystopian. They wanted small blocks. They wanted to keep it expensive and slow. But yeah, I do think that that potentially it was commandeered or taken over by the powers that be. Because if I knew in 2012 that this was going to be a force to be reckoned with, then certainly people much smarter than me who've been around a lot longer than me also would have seen it coming, right? And then also would have known that you can't shut it down, that it's and stuff. At a certain point, it just became, and it wouldn't have made sense it would be much more intelligent for them to own the majority of the supply of Bitcoin and make sure that it remains something that can stay as intended, versus for them to have, they could have 51% attacked the network early on, maybe if they saw it coming and maybe shut it down. But why would they do that if they can just control the purpose is to have as much supply as possible? So in the early days, if they'd seen it coming as their experiment, if they did create it, then they owned the first 1 million, right? Satoshi's Bitcoins are actually held by the powers that be, and we just don't know that yet. Or if those never move, then they would have been acquiring this whole time in little bits and tons of different wallets all over the place. And then as experiment goes on and it starts to gain more adoption and they see it coming and it feels neutral so that the globe accepts it, because today with nuclear arms and weapons and superpowers, you can't force the US dollar upon anyone anymore. You have to have acceptance from a decentralized, neutral, non-political type of currency that seems organically apolitical, so that North Korea, so that China, that Russia, everyone's willing to use it, even if it was created by, the powers that be, which were originally, of American descent or Italian descent or whatever it was. So that's just, but, and that seems dystopian. It seems like no, like the moral of the story is you're still early, buy Bitcoin.
It has a logic rope behind, because if you look at Bitcoin, in my point of view, the way how I see it through my lenses, Bitcoin is not money. Bitcoin is power.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with money. Like if they wanted money, they control everything. They could have created a different tool, like I don't know, selling I don't know. They can do whatever they wanted, right? Like it's literally their playground. And we are talking about 1 trillion, 2 trillion. I mean, money-wise, they can create tools in 5-10 years to generate this revenue effortlessly.
Yeah.
But Bitcoin is power. Bitcoin has a totally different implication. That's why is the boy of our society right now. Everyone is running after.
There's really, and it's really is genius in the scarcity aspect too. I don't know if this is accurate, but about a week ago, I saw on the crypto Twitter timeline that someone called and called out Peter Schiff and said, "Hey Peter, they just discovered a gold deposit somewhere in Africa that was $14 trillion worth of gold." Did you hear this?
Yes.
You heard this?
Yeah.
Do you know if it's true? Imagine if I don't know if it's true, but it's probably true, right? I mean, how much of the Earth's surface have we actually mined and looked through? Probably not much of it. So gold, just like diamonds, probably will be a non-scarce asset eventually, especially with the reality that we will be mining asteroids maybe in the next 20 or 30 years, right? There's no more Bitcoin in space that you can mine, right? Yeah. So it's really the only scarce asset that we have that's somewhat mainstream adopted today and still has a lot more to go. But diamonds aren't scarce. Oil's becoming less in demand. It will be less in demand. And it's also not super scarce, especially since US has one of the biggest deposits that they haven't tapped into yet.
But in the same time, we don't need to live in the clouds 100% of the time, because if has been created by them, they can destroy it in the same way. Like, I do believe that at one point, okay, not in 1 week, not in 1 year, but if the plan is to come back to certain situations because the tool has done the job and now we won, right? And then, okay, we don't need Bitcoin anymore. Bitcoin will go to nothing.
But it doesn't make any sense for them to go to nothing, right? If it would be like,
I mean, it might be a financial tool for the next 50 years, no problem. But if they don't need Bitcoin anymore, Bitcoin won't be anything. Like, it will go back to a black hole. In my opinion, like, it's just my opinion. It's just a financial tool in this global war between power.
Yeah, but right now the way I see it is that you, at least today, you do need it. Now,
yeah, for sure. Like,
now how I believe, like, let's say, we know that in America is what I'll reference because that's where I'm from, and it's also, I think, has the most influence on the financial system in the world, at least today. We do know that if the Trump camp wins, then CBDCs will not be introduced, at least while he's in office. I do believe that if the Democrats win, that CBDCs will come into play. And I think, I made a video on this like 2 years ago about my theory on how a CBDC gets introduced, because most people understand the dystopian nature of it, right? You tie together a CBDC with a social credit scoring system, and all of a sudden you're China, right? And you can't do anything without, it's being super government owned at that point. So how do you introduce a CBDC that would be accepted by the people, right? And so first what you need to do is create fear, because fear will allow people to buy it, to accept something that saves them from the fear. And so you've heard this term, kicking the can down the road, which is, what they always do when they print money, right? They don't want to allow the economy to go back into the Great Depression. So they just print more money, inflate it. But how much more can we do of that? Because every time that we kick the can down the road, the consequences get more severe and unsustainable. Eventually, probably, you either end up with hyperinflation like Zimbabwe, or the government doesn't step in and the economy comes crumbling down, and you've got like 10 years of just famine and horribleness. So in my opinion, if I was them, the way that I would do it is I would let that thing fall and let the economy crumble, and have everyone, for the first time in their life, probably feel real fear and thinking, I don't know what to do anymore. Like, there's no more jobs. I don't have any money. There can't have any food. And the government would step in at that point. Not too long. They probably just let people feel that for 2-4 weeks or something like that, and be like, okay, we have a solution for you. All you have to do is download this app, scan your face in there, and, we'll deposit 1,000 CBDCs into your accounts, and you can instantly go buy your food and pay for your rent or whatever. And people do that with happily, right? Because they need it. Yeah. And also, and what they could do is they could blame the downfall of the US dollar in its old state, in the old modern monetary policy, on its predecessors, and say, hey, guys, our predecessors in the Fed, our predecessors at an office,
or the guys from the other side, because Russia, right? Like, look at what they are doing. Like, they blame
somebody else other than the current office, right? It doesn't matter. They would just point the finger at someone and say, oh, well, we have the solution. It's a CBDC. It's on blockchain, right? They'll use the word blockchain so people think, oh, they'll relate to Bitcoin and think it's a good thing.
We are smart.
Yes. Yeah. And they'll correct. They'll say it corrects some of the major problems of the old fiat system, so that this, inflation and this doesn't happen anymore. And now we have a new US dollar, on chain or whatever. But in reality, it'll be the same kind of thing. And that's another thing that I see as an attempt to regain the dollar as a prominent currency. The problem is that I think they've lost a lot of trust around the world at this point. So I do think that Bitcoin is extremely significant right now. I'm not up to date and then to speed on what was discussed at the BRICS summit. I don't know if you are, but I do know that they're planning a new currency on chain.
Exactly. Yeah. They just for the media they put it out there that they are planning to launch this currency, right?
Yeah.
Internal one, just to be an opponent for the US dollar at the global level.
Yeah.
So from here we understand.
But that's really hard, right?
Yeah.
If you are the world superpowers, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Saudi.
It will be consequences for them.
But it's also hard, right? Because they all have ego, right? And they all want to be their own superpower. They don't want to rely on each other necessarily. They are, because that's the only way that they gain independence from the US dollar. But once you get past that, which one of them controls the printing, the supply, the monetary policy of BRICS currency, right? And I can't see that staying peaceful and everyone agreeing in the long term on something like that. So I see that being big problems too. Again, coming back to Bitcoin, where there's policy on chain, open monetary policy, and that's why I think it's so important.
Yeah, the thing is, back in the days, years or maybe tens of years, you could go to India as a country level, right? Coming from the US and go and say, okay, you have to do 1, 2, 3, and they will just do it, the execution blindly in the next 5 years. Now you can't have this attitude anymore, because they don't care. You go there and say, even you can't go with this kind of approach, right? If you go and say you have to do 1, 2, 3, they'll go no.
Yeah.
And then you are in the position to adjust, right, the strategy, because they are not listening anymore.
Yeah.
So now, of course, they can do stuff, right? But it will be consequence, particularly at the tech level, right?
And the ability to, and the ability, I think that COVID accelerated a lot of the work from home or the digital nomad ideology and lifestyle. So, that is also more troublesome for nation states that want to control citizens. When I graduated high school and I started traveling, as an American, only 2% of Americans had passports at the time, right? Then sometime later they mandated that everyone had a passport. But the fact is that at the time, and still probably today, not many travel, not many left, and they couldn't even fathom living and operating outside of the borders in which they were born. And so if you were a dictator government, you had a lot more control over your citizens at the time, even just 15 years ago, on your citizens and what they would do and the taxes they paid and the rules they would have to follow. Today, for most people, you can get your money out of the country, you can get yourself out of the country, and you can go to a country that you like the rules and laws there better than the one that you were born in. Of course, there's lots of exceptions and to that rule, but it still makes it more difficult for dictator governments to actually, be dictators and really force their rule upon their people, because they will just leave. In America, you see that on a more granular level, where with the states, and then people leaving California, for example, everyone's going to Austin or Miami or whatever.
After 20 years being there or something, it's not easy, of course, but at the same time, there are countries out there you can just buy your passport in, right? You can invest, I don't know, sometimes even just 200K or something, and then you can apply for the citizenship, and that particular passport gives you gates to other stuff, right? You're this freedom, location freedom, right? It's very important. I want to come to you at the personal level with all these global implications, and you have seen a lot because you are in the market for more than 10, 12 years, right?
Yeah.
Particularly crypto. So with everything what you do in the space, with Pay Network, all your beautiful projects, how do you position your money? What's the strategy right now? Are you monetizing the entire industry in the back end, just accumulating more Bitcoin, or is just what is it exactly? How do you play this game right now?
Okay, so I think that at the moment, at the moment, the real game in town is Bitcoin as far as, a store of value and a really good, stable risk return, asymmetric bet type of investment. The other altcoins, including the ones I've been building, are all experimental at the moment, and all of them can be disrupted by something else. Even Ethereum, even though I do think it's nearly cemented its place as but a lot of people would say that it hasn't, right? If you look at a lot of people today, they're going to say, Solana is better, or Sui, or whatever. Just to go from Solidity as a smart contract language to Move, which was developed by Mark Zuckerberg and them, $1 billion of R&D to make sure that you had secure smart contracts that people could trust. It made it much more difficult for exploits to happen and things like that, which is critical in our industry for DeFi and banks and funds to be able to trust money on chain. It's a big deal. So my point is that we don't know yet, it's still a nascent industry of these altcoins, which ones will be valuable. So we have to place our bets, because for 12 months in every 4-year cycle, we have this thing that Raoul Pal calls a banana zone, which is just this parabolic, super euphoric time where global liquidity is high and risk assets are game on, and all money comes into crypto, and everyone temporarily gets really rich. Not everyone keeps those.
A month.
Several months toward the end, it really gets extreme toward the end. That last parabolic thing where it's just ripping vertical charts, where everyone thinks it's going to last forever, and then it just falls off a cliff.
Yeah.
So the point is, what I've done this time around is, like Michael Saylor, what I've been doing is I take my Bitcoin, Ethereum, Chainlink, the things that my kind of blue chips that I've been holding on to, and I put those in Aave, and I take a loan against those, that collateral. So easy to do with DeFi, and I take some of that money, and then I'll buy more Bitcoin. In Aave, you have to buy wrapped Bitcoin. So I take a loan out in stablecoin. So let's say I take out $1 million in stablecoin loan. I buy $1 million of wrapped Bitcoin, which is Bitcoin, redeemable 1-to-1 Bitcoin. And then I resupply that $1 million of Bitcoin back as collateral. So my risk of liquidation is very low, because I buy $1 million, I borrowed $1 million, but then I put $1 million back in, right? So I can keep doing this. And as long as I think the price of Bitcoin is going to go up in the future, then I have I'm not worried.
Yeah, but that's the only one element that the Bitcoin has to go up.
Right. Well, if it goes down too much, you risk getting your collateral liquidated or sold. And if it goes down a lot, then you're selling your assets at a very cheap price, which is very unfortunate. Yeah. Right. So for me,
definitely long run, it's a good strategy. You can't lose with Bitcoin.
Well, you don't want to do your what's called LTV. You don't want to have your LTV too radical. Otherwise, if you have small swings in the market, you could get liquidated. For me, I sit on a more conservative side where I can take a 40-50% swing in Bitcoin and still be okay. So I've learned my lesson. You have to do it in a safe way, but it's good to leverage. And then everything I've borrowed, which is now a lot of money, and half of that money has been used to buy back Bitcoin and recollateralize it, and the other half has been used to invest in more volatile, risky assets, things like meme coins or undervalued altcoins, whatever, that I think will outperform Bitcoin over the next 12 months. And then the goal is to sell those liquid positions and the investments I've made over the past 3 years that haven't launched yet, the tokens haven't launched yet, to pay off my loan in Aave, and then keep all the newly accumulated Bitcoin that I've been able to buy.
Clean and
I've been able to buy 30 Bitcoin over the past month by using this strategy. That I don't own them free and clear because I got debt on them right now. But I bought them at $65,000 or whatever, or even $60,000. So if Bitcoin goes to $120,000, I can even sell all those and keep half of what I borrowed, or half. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a nice strategy.
So that's how I'm managing mostly my stuff right now, and able to give me a bit more capital to play with, than otherwise, because I did make a lot of investments over the past 3 years, and that capital is locked up. And so I wanted more liquidity. I had these assets sitting idly, and it shows you how DeFi is a powerful tool to access more liquidity.
You didn't go to the bank. You didn't wait 45 minutes on the queue. You didn't sign 300 papers.
No.
You didn't, did all this, prove your Kyle Chasse and all these things, right?
No, it takes about
You did it from your phone.
It takes 12 seconds
from your desk.
12 seconds to get a loan approved on
Yeah,
Aave, right?
yeah.
There's that one block on Ethereum.
Okay.
So
Isn't this the most beautiful thing
so
in
nice.
the world? It's
so
unbelievable,
nice.
yeah.
You know, and
But I want to ask you one thing. When you look at the liquidity right now, at this entire chain, let's imagine this vertical line, okay? Is Bitcoin on top, obviously, and then some Ethereum through the ETF, not that much, but still a little bit, and then we see some yellowish dots in certain blockchains, and then a huge black hole, nothing out there, literally nothing, all the way down to the lower level, to the meme coins. Like, in my opinion, this is exactly the industry right now. Like the alts, all alts have been destroyed by the meme game in the last year, because all the money, all the small bets, retail, they just went and played this entertainment game, TV show on tokens, right? Which is meme coins. And that's it. And the other side is Bitcoin with a little bit Ethereum, and maybe, as you mentioned, some Chainlink or other stuff, but maybe near, maybe, I mean, like very, very insignificant, right?
Yeah.
And then how, when you scan and you see this kind of things, I don't know if you agree or not, but my question is, based on this, I know you put a lot in this meme coin game. Why do you do that? Like, what's your end result scope with this?
So I put a lot over the past 6 months, because when you make, like, I make, nearly daily content on my YouTube channel for crypto. I have a team of researchers, and we use different tools like AI tools like Kaito and other things like that to understand the mind share in the industry at large. And even though I'm not a trader, I don't want to sit there with when I can understand what the market looks like and understand that there's a certain amount of liquidity in the market right now and no more is coming in, right? And you can judge that by Google search terms for Bitcoin, or how high the Coinbase app is ranking on the App Store. Right now, we just don't have new liquidity coming into the market other than Bitcoin and ETFs. So that means that capital can only get circulated throughout the crypto market that is currently in the market. Our total market cap, other than Bitcoin, isn't growing very much. So where is money going? It's well, you have to follow attention, right? And the timeline, the crypto Twitter timeline, has been dominated by meme coins. So it's not ideal. I got into the space, 12 years ago because I want to see decentralization as an idea flourish and, disrupt legacy systems. But I also want to make money, and I also want to build things. And so you go where attention is, right? And money will go where attention flows. So it goes into meme coins. Now, the question is why, right? The question is why meme coins? I mean,
you don't have this kind of thoughts like I'm putting my money in these things. I encourage these people. I will just bring the liquidity way to the lower ground instead of investing in alts, in some infrastructure which is like real utility, solving real problems. Do you have this kind of thoughts? You go like, I'm a business person, I want to make disgusting amount of money because I can.
So I think that first of all, a lot of alts, maybe 98% of them or something. And I'm not talking about memes. I'm talking about like tech alts, like legit, like ones you talk about. Like, most of them are centralized companies that have a token because they probably weren't capable of raising money in an equity round traditionally. And so they went where the money was easier. And so they raised money for a token, but they don't have any intention in their heart of hearts to make the token be valuable. They just believe the token will go up because if they do marketing and if they do stuff, like, then if they get the right influencers, their token will pump. And the problem is that they might create a business that generates revenue. Maybe. Most of them don't even have that. But if they have that, then most of them, that revenue goes to the centralized founders themselves and doesn't flow back into the token ecosystem. So the problem is that most tech alts are crap anyway, right? But a lot of them aren't, right? Like the ones that we're building, Paid Network, Commonwealth, those are decentralized in a way that, there's some centralized decision making right now. We have plans to decentralize over time, but 100% of value accrual, the value created by by those underlying protocols, stays within the token ecosystem, does not get extracted from the ecosystem back to us, the founders. The way that we get rich is if the token goes up in value and the community gets rich together. I think projects like that are fantastic, right? And I do talk about them. The problem is they're not useful right now. Like Paid, for example, not yet. Although November 6th, we do have something I'll tell you about in a second here coming up, which is going to be change the game, I think. And this is kind of actually where I'm alluding to. And then, they will be really useful when the retail comes back, right? They're retail-driven products that rely on liquidity coming in. They're investment-based platforms. But what we need to do to bring attention back to good founders with good projects, to have them be able to compete in the meme coin space for attention, because attention is what drives price, and and price drives attention. It's like this flywheel.
Yes.
So the problem has been in 2017, you had actually founders like Vitalik and Hoskinson and all these guys doing ICOs, right? And they would sell a bunch of the token supply to the public, and the public would have a chance to get in on the ground floor from the early days at a cheap price. And now if you got the Ethereum ICO or Cardano, like you're rich now, right? And you got to grow in value with the protocol or with the token. The problem is people take advantage of ICOs late 2017. So people thought that was bad to do in 2021 bull run. So people did IDOs, and IDOs didn't focus on, the problem with IDOs is that IDO platforms like ours, Paid Network and other ones, came to be as the popular places for public sales to happen. The problem is in the own self-interest of an IDO platform, for us to become popular, we want to market to the public that our launchpad is doing the best numbers as far as performance on a launch. And so how do you do that? Well, you need to artificially suppress the circulating supply on the launch so that there's no tokens available for sale. This is price manipulation, right? And then you have essentially the ability for that token to pump, because you go get influencers around this to say, go buy this token, it's the best thing ever. And you only have, it went from Ethereum and others selling 50, 60, 70% of their supply to the IDO days in 2021 where projects sold 0.5% of supply or maybe 3% of supply, hardly anything. And it's because launchpads encourage them. They said the launch is the most important thing of your project's career. However, what that ended up creating was very low float, very high FDV. A lot of these things were doing 50, 100, 200, 300x from the initial price, but that pushed the valuation of essentially many crappy projects that were vaporware, no real revenue, no real customers, no new nothing, to valuations 500 million, $1 billion, $3 billion plus. Even Paid Network, a few months after we launched, we were at like a $3.6 billion valuation for a launch pad that was just getting going. Like there was no way that we should have been valued at that valuation. We had no idea how the token was going to accrue value, nothing, right? It was just hype. But the problem is that's not sustainable, right? It's not a reasonable valuation, and investors were taking profit, and that ended up making the chart come down to the right. That whole model was broken because we ended up doing 5 launches a week, all of these low float, high FDV launches, and the public sale participants would want to get out of their position before the VC unlocks happened, so they didn't get dumped on because they got a higher price than the VCs. And so they got the last, crumbs on the table, essentially. And so what this did, it didn't encourage community to stick around. It encouraged community to buy and get out as quickly as possible. But what we're proposing now, I took a lot of time during the bear market to think, how do we make this a better market, right? And the answer is, and also we've had this other iteration too of the last year. Airdrops, right? Scams, all scams. Airdrops are scams. No community is being built over it. People are allocating 10% to the biggest, to people adding TVL, but the TVL is some rich billionaire in China who gets all the TVL so he can get 10% of supply. It's a big smoke. Everything's smoke and mirrors. People have to be very careful in this space. There's so much deception and fake Twitter followers and fake TVL and fake this and Chinese farmers, Sybil attacking airdrops. So none of it works. You want to build true community. You need to make a bunch of poor people rich, just like Ethereum did, just like XRP did, just like Solana did. Make poor people rich. And so what we're doing in the first launch coming up on November 6th with an amazing project that's backed by Dragonfly, backed by Mechanism, Play Ventures, really awesome project. Their first seed round, which Dragonfly and other tier ones invested into at $38 million. Then they had their strategic round with other investors and KOLs and stuff at $48 million valuation. They're doing a public sale, or the community, we're calling an LCO, low FDV community offering on paid at a $10 million FDV. So you're getting it 80% cheaper than the VCs did. And they're selling 20% of the supply. And we're doing it in a way where it's going to, you as a participant in the sale are restricted to $100 max ticket size. Why? Because we want broad distribution. But if it goes to something like, it's a gaming project, right? Blast Royale, it's called. If it goes to what Illuvium did last bull run, that's $18 billion valuation from a 10 million entry point. So your $100 allocation becomes tens of thousands of dollars. Even $100,000 is potential, right? 1,000x is possible on that. So, and you're getting in way cheaper than VCs. So you don't have that sense of urgency or necessity to sell your allocation when you get it, right? You participate, you $100 is in, you get your tokens, and you hold those things. Now, this is interesting. Why? Because your entry point was like that of a meme coin psychology. The difference is you do have some inflation and some VC unlocks ahead of you, but the difference is that their price was way higher than yours. So it's highly unlikely that price is ever going to come back down to, you're not going to lose money on these deals most likely, right? But the upside potential, the asymmetric bet is so grand that would you risk selling your tokens at a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10x? Or would you rather hold that thing for potentially life-saving types of returns? And if you get 20,000 people in the sale like Blast Royale tends to do, then some percentage of those are going to become working for their bags, and they're going to become true loyal community members. And they have a doxed team with great backers, with a good game that's live, with real monthly active users. And it's not some anonymous shady meme coin dev who could probably hold 80% of the supply, who can dump at any time. And you don't know of the longevity or sustainability of that meme coin. But with this thing, at least it's something to get behind that you can logically, rationally, as a community member, tell to your mom and dad, hey guys, there's this really cool game, with these great founders, get behind it and go buy a bag, right? You can't tell that to your grandma or your mom or dad for a meme coin. Like, that's ridiculous. It's irresponsible, right? So I think this is how the 2025 bull market looks. If serious founders want to grow serious communities, which you need to support the price, support your long-term growth in the crypto space, then you need to be able to build a community. And right now, meme coins are dominating that narrative, but mostly because founders have been not appreciating and offering retail users a good entry point. And that's what I'm proposing to change.
Because in investments, the money are made like the entry point, right?
Yes.
The earlier you are in the project, the better the position, and that gives you this comfort of waiting. Disregard, like if you are already 20, 50x, okay, the token price, it goes like 50% down, you're still profitable. You're not in the position to lose everything because of that entry point position.
Yeah.
I want to move a little bit from this part at the personal level, because as we can see, you have a lot of stuff on the table and you are building great things together with your YouTube channel, where, by the way, guys, I encourage you to, I'll put the link below. Insane amount of value. Almost in every single video I learn something. Is just highly appreciate everything what you're doing. How do you manage to have all these ropes in your hands and do stuff around. And like few days ago we met at one private event, right? So you are doing extra stuff, like not we talk about running a successful YouTube channel. That's already the entire day, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, as you notice, at the moment right now, I can't, I ideally I make videos 5 days a week. In reality, right now, well, especially while traveling here, it's maybe I'm lucky to get 1 a week or 2 a week. But there's also strategy behind that. One is we don't have a bunch of retail back, so the ROI, the cost, cost benefits, isn't great right now to try to allocate to do 5 videos a week. That changes when retail start coming back in. So come December or January, let's say January, I'll be making 5 videos a week for sure, maybe 7, right? Because people are going to be interested, people are going to be coming in. Every day, new people are coming in the market on crazy. So I want to capture them and be the first point of contact that they see my videos, learn from me. But
Alex Becker's strategy.
I'm not sure.
Like he's not on YouTube in the last 2 years. Like he started to.
Right. So, but and he's probably doing. I'm guessing similar to what I am, where we are trying to make sure our infrastructure is capable of operating without our daily presence, because we know that come January, we better be on the ball. The number one priority of the day will probably be making a video, number one priority. And so, I was looking at because I didn't start taking YouTube seriously until about a year ago. Before that, I've had the channel for 3 or 4 years, but when I go back and look at the analytics for the videos that were made in the last bull run, sometimes I get thousands of subscribers a day. Oh, like that's crazy, Right now, you're lucky to do that in 6 months, and so. To not, and I didn't even.
How much do you make with the YouTube channel?
I don't make much. I think last year I made on YouTube ad revenue, I made like $30,000 or something. Obviously, the reason that I do it is I want to create distribution for the things that we're building. So, Master Ventures, or now it's actually branded as MV Global, is my company, right? And we
marketing weapon.
It's a market, it's distribution, right? So, if Kim Kardashian does something, it turns into gold every time because everyone knows about her products. So I want to be a big voice, have a big presence. And so people understand, because I believe in the things that we're building greatly. Like the tools that we're building are the best in the industry, right? Like Commonwealth, for example, it's a retail, I describe it as A16Z meets Wall Street Bets meets Robinhood, right? It's a retail-facing investment platform that allows the retail to get into early-stage VC deals completely, unaccessible for people before, and now that opens the door for them. We're also building out other things like decentralized ETFs, where if you're just crypto curious and you want to go be able to buy a basket of the top 5 cryptocurrencies, bam, you can do that with your credit card. You can go put $1,000 down and bam, we just, you come in and make it super easy to come in and out of crypto. Or if you want to be more risky, you can buy a basket of the top 5 meme coins, for example, right? Because even people in last bull run, people didn't have Bitcoin, but they had Shiba and they had Doge, right? So Commonwealth there's no one else like Commonwealth in the market right now. No one else is even competing. And we have some of the best engineers building it, the best marketers, everything like that.
Indeed, it's a very nice project. It depends also what type of audience do you want to call, right? How do you build all this stuff? Because when you look at, we are a YouTube game, right? We look at Mr. Beast. He's a pure genius, right? He built all this entire ecosystem behind him. But he cannot, the maximum that he can sell is a chocolate bar. Because his entire brand is pure entertainment. All these 200 million views are there for having, 5 minutes time spent, and that's it. Like zero interest in something else. And it's very hard for him to sell $1,000 product, for example. I think he will be able to do that for his audience. Versus other YouTube channels.
Well, he sells burgers. He sells chocolate bars.
Yeah, but still in the same
He
range,
sells
like
merch.
$5. Like okay, you can have a hoodie in 47, whatever. But it's like you can go premium, right? You can go by $5,000 something. I don't think he has this audience. But versus other channels, right? You can might be a IT guy, a developer, or whatever. You can sell literally 20K thousand product, right? Like it depends. And the question is like, in which area do you want to go? Like, do you want to go like super broad, like having 20 million views per video and have this uh, 4.99 subscription, or is just a matter of going more
Well,
niche and with people that understand and all this stuff?
so the things that we've been building so far really have been about democratizing access and making it available for low entry points. So, and I think that those, the platforms that we've built give access, democratize access to investment opportunities, whether it's a public sale, community, the LCO that I talked about, whether it's a early stage VC seed round. But they serve multiple purposes. It's not just an investment vehicle; it's a community building, thing and initiative as well. And I do think that it's interesting for lower price points to be able to come in because those make the best community, right? But rich people don't care to participate on, and like build GIFs and stickers and memes and go raid tweets and, chill in people's live streams. People who have more time will do these things and work for their bags more, which builds a stronger community, which builds a better crypto project. So right now I'm looking at to be able to talk to as many people as possible. And if I could bring, tens of thousands of people or 100,000 people into something at a low price point, that's what I'd rather do at the moment than just bringing, a handful of people into a $20,000 to $30,000 product. Now, I do have both in my audience, right? There's definitely a lot of big whales that watch my content. And, this is how something like Commonwealth was able to do all of its fundraising in a bear market from just the community members that watch my YouTube channel versus, going to VCs or something to raise some money. So yeah, I'm really trying to get broad reach, and I like the idea of inclusivity.
I mean, I need to say this, that you are a super smart guy. You have seen a lot of things and you are well prepared in with all these tools that you are using. You mentioned earlier Kaito, right?
Yeah.
Kaito is $10,000 or $12,000 on the most advanced version, but is expensive one, very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, in this way, you are going to position yourself to take faster and accurate decisions, right? But sometimes I'm watching your channel and I say, is it him, or he did something with AI? He's doing like, I'm expecting this kind of moves from your side. And coming to AI, are you building something in this area? Like, do you plan to involve this beautiful industry into your entire ecosystem?
Yeah, it's something we haven't told anyone yet.
Please. You're
but
welcome.
For the past 4 or 5 months, I've been building, a system of AI agents that can be created, that can assume identities and personalities and personas. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to, be able to create a bunch of AI influencers, right? And so, something similar to what happened with Goat recently, and Truth Terminal and Infinite Backrooms. Like this weekend, I will have built a similar type of thing over the past 4 months. That we can have a back room where you can watch all of my AI agents with different personalities talk to each other and create ideas and come up with things. But also, they will have access to X, right? And they will be able to create, some of them will be clearly AI agents and proud of that. Some of them you won't know, right? Some of them you won't know.
Nice.
And
very nice.
It's something that I think is going to be super powerful. And, at first I wasn't sure if it's something that I should be telling people or not, right? But, I saw Gary Vee in an interview a few months ago, and he said he was doing this exact same thing, and And I think it's going to be a tool, and I think it's something that we are already seeing on X. Like, and it's not nothing new. We also see other AI avatars that are doing ads for Mercedes and Adidas and everything, and making millions of dollars a year off an AI avatar, right? And so it's not a new foreign concept; it already exists. But I've been really trying to stay as much in the bleeding edge of AI as possible, while still maintaining my basis on crypto and longevity and everything else. And so
it makes sense. And my personal opinion is that, for example, guys like Alex Hormozy, I think all his social media accounts right now are run by AI. Like like at least on X is definitely like he's putting insane amount of content out there, and definitely is AI or behind.
Probably,
yeah, absolutely.
Do you say that because of the sheer volume of content, or just the way it's formatted too? Can you tell it's AI written, or
a little? Both. Like at the beginning, I caught some patterns, and it has those like on Monday this, on Tuesday this, stuff, and then I don't know. I just scanned this. I caught some patterns, and I understood that this is not really. And it makes sense because it's a volume game, right? It's a numbers game. So you have to put out there, like literally you can't stay on your phone to tweet, right?
Right.
But what you mentioned, the end result is literally you are swimming in Puerto Rico with dolphins, but in the same time you are on YouTube maybe 5 times per day, putting content, 1 hour content, talking and educating and sharing knowledge and different platforms and different formats at once, right?
Yeah. And I think the key to that for people like myself who like to be identified as a thought leader is to really make sure that if you get to that point, that the AI agent that you build for your own character understands you in and out, right? And I think that it could do probably a pretty good job today watching all my videos, my interviews, my blog posts, stuff like that, and get to know who I am and how I might respond to questions and how I might think about things. But inevitably, what we're going to need to do is train a data set on everything about me and open up. But for that to happen, I need to make sure that that large language model isn't attached to an OpenAI or a Google or something on the back end, where it can also get my deepest, darkest secrets, my intellectual property, things I'm working on. So that's why I'm also.
And how do you solve that?
Well, I think that there's a lot of solutions being built in the blockchain space right now, in crypto, right? So you've got someone like Based AI right now building a whole layer 1 with privacy at its center, right? FHE encryption or ZK large language models. You've got other ones building like rivals, partnering with someone like Mind Network, for example. Mind Network is creating FHE wrappers for AI. They're also creating something called super alignment. So all really what I think we're going to need for the best agents to represent ourselves is privacy. It's going to be important, right? Because if you really want them to know who you are, you need to share everything with them. And if you're not comfortable with a big corporate on the back end receiving that information in plain text, you need to use one of these privacy preserving
and you shouldn't be
models, right? And you should not.
Yeah. Kyle, thank you very much for this conversation. I appreciate it very much, and thank you for coming to ICN Talks. I want to see you building as you share with us for the first time, and I'm grateful for that as well. I want to see you building beautiful things, and keep up with the good work. I'm watching your channels. I'm in your VIP programs.
Nice.
I'm happy to be there in your ecosystem, and again, thank you so much for everything.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys for watching, and see you again on the next one.